Yeah, man. Famous cartoonist Art Baltazar, as you see. Abraham Lincoln is with me, and we are watching, and you are watching. Famous cartoonists draw at night. They draw at night, by night. We're all here together, man. Buy their comics, buy my comics, shop.
Welcome to Cartoonist by Night. I am Anthony Laatsch. I am joined here by Matt Fife, Matt Rodgers, Troy Dongarra, and a very special guest, our first guest on Cartoonist by Night, Franco. How's it going, Franco?
Hi. First guest. I'm honored.
Very first guest.
Or should I be scared?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
When we dropped the trailer back in like late April, early May, you were the first one to reach out saying, hey, when are you going to have me on Cartoonist by Night? And we're like, hey, we didn't even record an episode yet. So we're holding you to that. Here you are 6 months later.
You were. It was almost like kind of like, being blackmailed into this. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You promised.
And while we have you on the line, since you're our first guest, I figured we'll have you be our last guest too. So we'll just get all that booking right away. So when we end the show somewhere down the line, whenever it's going to be, we'll just get you penciled in there. So
I hope I'm still
that's smart.
Yeah, I hope I'm still alive for that. That'll be great.
No, conveniently, it's this episode.
Oh, first and last, we're all good. All right.
So what we all decided to do is that when we have a guest on, we were going to have them choose the topic. And even though the people that clicked on this video already know what it is, let our audience know with your words on what topic you picked.
Oh, me? Oh, you sent over a bunch of them. So I said Star Wars just because it was generic enough, I guess.
Yeah, I gave a bunch of examples because whether it's like a franchise or a character or whatever, you pick Star Wars. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first just kind of introduce what we're all going to be working on if we know that. I will kick it over to Matt Rodgers. Do you know what you were going to be drawing for us today that's Star Wars related?
I'm gonna be drawing Hit Fisto.
Oh, nice.
Because he's awesome.
Cool.
Got my
And how about
reference.
you, Matt Fife? You have any idea what you're drawing today?
I have a little Chewie started and a little R2D2 started. We'll see which one sucks least.
We were allowed to pick beforehand. Nobody told me these rules. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're famous. You're professional. Hopefully, you can. We're buying you some time here. What I'm going to do, because I like to do my pencils ahead of time, so it's not 45 minutes of me just trying to figure out how to draw an arm. So I am going to be drawing a Wampa, but as a Jedi. So a Wampa Jedi. And if you'll notice that when the Wampa's using the Force hand, it's missing an arm and a hand, as we've seen happen to a Wampa in the past. So that is just going to be a blank space. But that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to save Troy for last, so he has time to think of an answer. Franco, do you have any idea on what you want to draw tonight?
No clue. I said Star Wars the other day and forgot about it. Now we're doing Star Wars. So
just gonna draw the logo, maybe.
Maybe I'll do a Madman Jedi or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I saw a Madman on your drawing board there.
There's a couple other things. I got a couple other inspirations. You'll notice a couple familiar designs that you've worked with. All three of these actually, and then we got some Archie over here. So yes,
nice.
And now, hopefully, Franco, you'll let us know as we get rolling here. But Troy, do you have any idea on what you want to do tonight?
I'm just gonna do Yoda. I think Yoda's kind of cute. Well, either Yoda or Grogu. But I think Yoda.
One or the other.
I think they're both kind of cute.
Yeah. I've been playing around with the brush pen lately, and I'm not sure I could do anything like robot arms and all that stuff with the brush pen. But you know me, I might just start doodling something when I might throw away Yoda and just start doodling and enjoy you guys' company for a little bit.
Sounds good. So yeah, feel free to kind of jump in, and what we're going to do is just kind of hang out, talk about Star Wars, talk about whatever. I do have some questions from some of our fans that I will filter in to kind of get the conversation rolling. But before we do that, we'll start with Franco on just kind of, why did you pick Star Wars beyond the fact that there was a list that you picked from, but just kind of what Star Wars means to you and your fandom for it. Feel free to start talking about that.
Yeah, Star Wars was kind of what really kickstarted my imagination into high gear watching it. Are we allowed to start drawing? Is that a thing? I
Oh yeah,
wasn't sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can just do whatever now.
So yeah, I saw Star Wars late in the theaters. It came out during the summer, but I didn't see it till almost December, I think, or in December of that year. I heard everybody else talking about it, and I wanted to see what all the stuff was about. Finally, begged my dad if he could let me go to the movie theaters because it's not a thing that I did when I was a kid, really, because we were always working.
Mhm.
So I saw it and it kind of blew me away, and been a big fan ever since.
And
It's
it had
really
a,
kind of just shaped where I've been in terms of creativity, fandom, things that can kind of happen, you know?
yeah, it. I wasn't around for the initial theatrical run until Return of the Jedi. I was mere 1 year old when that movie came out. But
Thanks for making me feel old. Invite me on, call me old. Get it. Got it.
I've got a
Good. Thanks.
checklist of things to say, and that was at the top of my list. So now we can keep on. But my family and my brothers, everybody loves Star Wars, so it was pretty easy. It was kind of a real awesome hand me down. So I pretty much was right there as young as one can be to watch Star Wars. But yeah, that's where I kind of started. We'll start with let's go over to Rogers. What's your association with Star Wars and the fandom?
I started watching it when I was a kid. Anytime my dad would stay home sick from work, we would just watch the trilogy. So I have always associated it with sickness.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. No, it's awesome. I was also born. I was also 1 year old when Return of the Jedi came out. But I have seen every Star Wars movie except for Solo at a midnight showing because they did the 1997 re-releases.
Wow.
And I found this website. I don't know if we can advertise or not, but it's called Sloppy Seconds Sales. And they sell bootleg stuff, and it's called the Grindhouse Star Wars. It's 3 Blu-rays, and it is direct scans of the original film from the theatrical runs of the first movies. They didn't clean them up. They didn't do any work to them, so all the scratches and dirt are there, but it's like the originals before they were specialized.
What's this website?
Sloppy Second Sales. I think it's .com.
Like that there's a sales on the end of that.
Yeah, it's just sloppyseconds.com.
Be very careful Googling this if you guys are watching this at work.
You said a bootleg copy, so do you get both the boot and the leg? What's going on over there?
Yes, well, you get the left leg, but the right boot.
Okay.
It's gross. Yeah, they just they sell stuff. It's like they specialize in doing like stuff that's out of print or stuff that was never really released.
Yeah.
I also ordered Over the Garden Wall on Blu-ray from them because that got such a limited run, and now it's like over $100 for the set. So I got it for $13.
Oh.
Do they just do Blu-ray and DVD, or are they like
They have VHS
vinyl?
too. No vinyl, just VHS. Okay. They have some box set stuff. It's all highly illegal, I think, but nobody's going after them. So,
well, and it's illegal for them, right? Not you, not the purchaser.
Yeah, I would imagine that's what I'm gonna say if I get in trouble.
So they see this episode now. This will go out to the widest audience ever. So
That's true. I'm sorry,
Matt
Franco.
Fife. Matt Fife, what's your relationship with Star Wars?
My relationship started much later. I didn't see Star Wars until I was early 20s. I wanted to wait until the prequels came out since I never saw them as a kid. But I ended up seeing them before episode 3 came out. I have a stack of books, like of Star Wars novels, that I intend to read, but I have not. I intend to watch Star Wars every year, the whole all 9 of them now at this point. But I usually don't get around to that. So I really enjoy Star Wars, but I don't get to spend much time with it.
You like the idea of it, and you like that it's there.
And I wish I was there with it.
Like the essence of Star Wars.
Let's see here. Looking over at Troy, looks like you didn't waste any time to start drawing a Star Wars character. What's your relationship with Star Wars?
Mostly antagonistic. My son loves it. My father loves it. I guess it just skipped a generation for me. I remember, I think I might be a little bit older. Hang on, I gotta pause it. Somebody's knocking at the door.
George Lucas. George Lucas, everybody. So as Troy stepped away there, so yeah, I'm getting to work on my Wampa Jedi here. This is new to me for doing a more physical art on the show. I started the majority of the show just doing digital work, but getting the camera setups and having fun with doing some physical art pieces. So I'm still, sort of learning that technique. Looking down at Franco's screen there, I see some toes of some sort. What's going on over there?
Yeah, no toes. It's a madman Jedi, but I draw very lightly in ballpoint pen. So I'm drawing a ballpoint pen, and it tends to not show up on screen, which is why whenever I usually do this, I usually have a drawing kind of already,
Oh, sure.
light boxed out onto final paper. But I figured I was going to go from scratch tonight, and we'll see how it goes. If I lift it up, can you see it?
Oh,
at
there
all,
we
or
go.
not now?
Yeah, the way I was looking at it, I thought that was like some like a monster foot or something, but now I see the hand. So
Yeah. So he's got a lightsaber, and he's got his head here, and his chest emblem. It's a madman Jedi Knight,
awesome.
I believe. Yeah, or would he be Sith? Or would it be both? I think it'd be both.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
a gray Jedi.
Is that what they are? Gray Jedi?
It'd be
Yeah,
cool
it's
because
like-
his lightsaber would change colors depending on what mood he's in, I guess.
Yeah.
It would be a mood saber, I think.
Oh man.
Yeah, when thinking about what I wanted to draw, I wanted to draw a Wampa, but I just didn't want to just have a bunch of white space and draw a bunch of fur. And I'm like, all right, should I give him some armor or something? And then I thought, hey, I'll give him a Jedi robe and I can draw a lightsaber in there. So I don't think we've seen a Wampa Jedi before. I haven't seen every Star Wars thing ever, but I might be, breaking new ground here, maybe.
You're the
What's a
man.
Wampa exactly? Is that, or what? Where would I have seen a Wampa?
Empire Strikes Back, basically a snow monster, like an abominable snowman type of guy. So
Oh, he's the guy that had Luke like hanging upside down.
yep.
Gotcha.
In the new video games, there's jungle Wampas.
Ooh.
Why wouldn't there be? Of course there would be.
Right. Star Wars jungle.
And
Painted myself into a corner. Now I can't do anything without smearing ink.
no. Well, if you need to let it dry a little bit, do you want to talk a little more before you had to leave there to answer George Lucas at the door? Any more to kind of build on your relationship with Star Wars or lack thereof?
I mean, there's not much to say. I'm the one that introduced my son to it, so I guess it's sort of up. It's my fault that he's into it. I just introduced it to him because I thought there's a possibility he might like it. And sure enough, he did. So he's gotten crazy into the Legos, and he's got the Lego video game. He's seen all, what did you say, Rogers? Like 9 movies, or Fife, excuse me, like 9 movies,
Yeah,
Actually, there's
9,
11 movies.
11.
11.
Was
Correction.
that you, Rogers?
Yeah. Sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah,
How
Not,
dare I
not to
so
mention,
go
not to
on.
mention all the TV shows and spin-offs either.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
I don't think he's seen all the shows and the spinoffs. I don't even think he's seen The Mandalorian beyond like 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh, man.
But like we got Disney Plus for like a month, and he was glued to Disney Plus every single day during the summer, watching something or another, having his bowl of popcorn and Star Wars going nonstop. So I'm glad that he likes it.
Yeah, that's interesting to say. Like with you, like you got him into it, even though you yourself wasn't, a huge fan. So I think that's a cool, unique. It's a cool dad thing right there.
Well,
You
that's
just
what
weren't
we
a fan
dads do.
because you never got into it, or it just irks you, or you're not a fan. Why?
I really don't have a reason. Just never
never
got
watched
into it.
No.
I guess a classic
No,
question.
I watched it. It just didn't like appeal to me. Like I liked He-Man and um, Thundercats. I guess maybe the fantasy stuff did more for me than like the science fiction stuff did. Um,
Okay. Okay.
Oddly enough, like if you asked me like a movie around that time frame, I would probably like name like Beastmaster or something that, does not hold up nearly as well as Star Wars does.
I mean, what does though?
When you were watching it with your son, did you feel like your enjoyment of Star Wars grew, or did
Yeah,
it stay?
I think it grew just because I was hanging out with him, but I don't know that that enjoyment was because of Star Wars so much as just hanging out with my buddy.
Have you watched Rogue One?
Yeah, and even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, it was surprisingly good.
Yeah, that movie's amazing.
It's like the second best Star Wars movie.
Oh, now you've
Well,
opened up a can of worms. What's the first one?
I have a really bad opinion about that because it's not Empire.
Ooh, I don't think it's Empire either. I think it's A New Hope.
I think it's Jedi.
See, well, now you're wrong again.
Max Rebo is only in Jedi.
I think it's the holiday special. That's my favorite. So
You can buy the.
I was gonna
holiday
go with
special.
Phantom Menace.
You can buy that on Blu-ray at sloppy second sales.
Anthony's a big B. Arthur fan. That's why.
that is
he likes
true.
The
It's,
holiday special.
I had to complete the collection, so I had to get the holiday special. This goes into a good question. So my friend Katie from my Crimson Cowl Comic Club, she's a huge Star Wars fan. She's a fan of this very drawing show, and so she has a couple Star Wars related questions. Would you rather fly an X-wing or a TIE fighter? Now, we may have to explain some of that to Troy. We'll see, unless he knows it through some of the Lego sets. But let's start with Franco. Would you rather fly an X-wing or a TIE fighter?
This is a complicated question because I think, much rather fly a TIE fighter, but I don't think I could because it's constantly making that noise as it goes through space. That
Screaming
TIE
TIE.
fighter noise. So that would be annoying after a while, I think. So I think, although I want to fly a TIE fighter, I think I'd have to go with X-wing ultimately.
That's such an odd reason.
Yeah. Whenever they show a TIE fighter and screams across the screen, it's like, ah! So I can't make the noise, but you know what I mean.
love it.
When you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. And now when you watch the movie, you're never going to be able to unhear that every time you see a TIE fighter, too.
I'm just going to hear your voice going, wow.
Ah!
I'm gonna
Yeah.
take that clip and make it a sound bite. So when it happens, I just press a button on my phone and it
Yeah.
plays.
Ooh, am I going to be made into a Mimi? Is that what you're
Yes.
doing?
I mean,
Nice.
Oh. A Franco Mimi.
Matt Rodgers, X-wing or TIE fighter?
Okay. So to tell Troy, an
I
X-wing,
know it. I know it.
an X-wing's wings are shaped like an X. And a TIE fighter, that's twin ion engine.
I hate you all.
TIE
All
fighter.
of you.
TIE fighter because the dark side's better than the light side, and they're all cooler looking, and they have better music, and they have better force powers.
Better.
Alright.
Do you think the music actually is piped into the cockpit? Like
Yeah.
the Empire music is.
No question about it. It has to be, right? I mean,
Empire.
if it's piped through my Toyota Prius, I would imagine that it is piped through a TIE fider.
Imperial
think-
Jams Volume 15. Now that's what I call Imperial Jams.
I was gonna say, do you think like the Emperor is like, no 80s rock on Sirius XM. You're gonna have the Empire music at all on every channel. So they're flipping through and it's the same song on every channel. I
Is
think
that
that's
guy
cool.
listening to Raw Dog Radio? Get out of here. What about you, Fife? What would you fly?
X-wing. The TIE fighters have those big things on the side that seem like
Wings.
it'd make them a pretty easy target, and I have bad luck when I'm an easy target. So X-wing seems like it'd be a little bit sneakier, right?
Fly casual.
I probably wouldn't be in the war because I'm a wimp.
But if you had the X-wing, you could fly in open position or closed position. You know, the TIE fighters just have the noise, but the X-wings would have open or closed, so you can
That's
go.
true. Yeah.
Are they still X-wings if they're in the closed formation, in the wing with the wings closed? Aren't they just like a T, and
They're-
a T wing?
Wing.
I think they're still X-wings. Maybe potential X-wings.
Soon to
Potential.
be X-wings.
X-wings in training. I think I would pick a TIE fighter because I'm thinking about like a compact car. I've only driven like sedans. I don't drive like trucks or anything like that. And I'm looking at size-wise, and I think I would be more comfortable in a TIE fighter, screaming or not. So
They're very roomy on the interior.
from experience, it sounds like.
Well, if you watch the movies and you watch the beginning of episode 7, okay, when Finn rescues Poe,
They fly one.
Oh,
They fly one.
I bet you that was much bigger than it was in the original trilogy, just for budget reasons, and they just have more. You can, if you have to film inside of a TIE fighter.
I'm going to tell you that no, because George Lucas made all the changes that he wanted to for budget reasons. And that wasn't what he made Jabba's door bigger, but X-wings are still little.
Yeah, that was my least favorite thing about the original trilogy is how small Jabba's door was. Really bothered me as a kid.
Why's that door so small?
Speaking of Poe and Finn and all those guys, will we see him again, you think? Was that his name, Finn?
Yeah, you won't see Finn anymore. That dude is like on the anti-Star Wars bandwagon because I guess they screwed him over really bad in that trilogy.
Yeah, he didn't go the way he thought he was going to go, especially when they changed things over from director to director.
Maybe Finn though, or not Finn, Poe.
No.
I love.
Wasn't
Oscar
there
Isaac.
rumors of Rey doing a movie, like her Daisy Ridley coming back or something like that?
I think that I don't think of the rumors. I think it was announced. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how they've been with Star Wars stuff lately, in 2 years, it'll be like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. They just cancel everything. But I will say that I do side with Art, and that I didn't like that one show that I can never remember the name of. The Rogue
Andor?
One. Yeah, Andor. That is,
Yeah.
everybody's like, you got to make it 6 episodes in. And I'm like, then don't make the first 5 episodes so boring.
I haven't got to watch it yet, but I'm putting it off until I get everybody's negative thoughts out of my head on it, so I can go in kind of clean.
Yeah, that's a
Smart.
good idea.
I really liked Rogue One. I think, yeah, like we said, first or second best Star Wars movie.
I'm gonna be a little picky because you're pronouncing it wrong. It's pronounced Rogaja one.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
My
So,
English is terrible.
Yeah, as a Star Wars aficionado, I like things pronounced correctly, please.
Rogaja?
Rogaja
Rogaja
one.
one.
Fife,
Yeah.
don't embarrass us around here. Come on. Stop embarrassing us.
This is going to be the last episode if you keep that up.
We have a couple questions from D. Brad as well. D. Brad, who is
Yeah, D. Brad.
I like
Sorry,
that
I
guy.
had to-
yeah, we all are fans of D. Brad. He's in the comment section and he's always there for oh yeah and all that stuff. We did touch on something that he brought up, but I'll read it as he writes it here. Does Franco or any of the Cartoonist by Night guys remember when he first heard of Star Wars? We kind of covered some of that stuff, but he goes, for me, my parents went to see it for a date and then came home and told me how great it was and then took me to see it the next week. So there we go.
It would have been tragic if they told him how good it was, and then they're like, "Well, we're not going to take you because movies are expensive." And
Yeah.
we don't.
We just saw it and we're not going to see it again. Why would we see a movie?
We'll wait till VHS is invented, and then we'll maybe rent it. And you can see it then.
Like,
Yeah,
man, that movie was amazing. Oh, can I go see it? Go for it, man. We're not going. Just saw it.
I'm just trying to picture, just like how young D. Brad was, little D. Brad, and if he had a babysitter, if somebody was, the fact that like, hey, we're gonna go see a Star Wars movie, we're going on a date, but you can't go to this. This is just, it's a grown-up time to see a Star Wars.
A Star
Was he
Wars.
always D. Brad?
I dragged my knuckle through the paint.
Uh-oh.
Wet ink. It's like a tradition in the show. Wet ink on every freaking drawing. It wouldn't be a drawing if I didn't put my knuckle through it.
Yeah, I did that a lot with the digital screen, so that's why I moved to physical art, so I don't do that anymore. Wait a minute.
Good,
That's why I use
good
ballpoint
choice.
pen. I don't ink anything ever.
Speaking of the ballpoint pens, that's something that I enjoyed flipping through your binder at C2E2 and kind of hearing the story about how some of those drawings came to be to the public audience. And it was your son that had suggested to sell them. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I grew up in my parents always worked in restaurants, and I was always there, so I kind of grew up in restaurants. And old Italian restaurants back in the day, they had those paper placemats with the Italian flag on, or the Italian country, Italy, on them, and we had tons of them because we would get boxes of them. And I would always draw on the back because they were always blank. But all we had was ballpoint pens in the store, in the restaurant. So that's why I just became used to drawing with a ballpoint pen. I always doodle with it. I do all my prelims with it. So if I, finish a drawing or whatever, or painting or whatever, I always do it with ballpoint pen. And then I always threw them in a box. And my son was like, "Well, what are you going to do with these?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just throw them out eventually, I guess. I don't know. I just didn't have the heart to throw them out." He goes, "Oh, you should sell these. People are buying them." I'm like, "You're crazy, boy. What do you know, young whippersnapper? You don't know what you're talking about. No one's ever going to buy these things. They're just pen drawings." And lo and behold, he was right. I was wrong. I was humbled. I was humbled by my young son, and he's right.
How old was he at this point?
He was 20.
Oh,
It was just no. Yeah, it was a few years ago. So I guess actually he was about maybe 18, 19 years old or something like that. When yeah, he's older. He's a man now. I call him boy, but he's a man. But he goes, "Yeah, if you bring these to shows, people will probably sell them. I think they're cool." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, but you're my boy, so you thinking they're cool doesn't mean that they're going to sell, but they sell." So I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah, I always have a blast going through those. I've picked up some of them. future Anthony, when he edits this, he might put in some of those pictures of the ones that I scooped up here, so we can all ooh and ah over things that we are seeing in the future. Oh, look at this one.
Ooh.
Oh, that one's a good one. I remember when I drew that one.
What about
And I
this
bet
one?
you regret selling that one.
I do now.
Deep Red continues. He's asking Franco here another question. Let me pull it up. He goes, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, hold on here. Here he is. Okay, he goes, has Franco ever met a Star Wars celebrity at a convention?
Yes, I've also met celebrities outside of the convention.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which one would you like to hear about?
The outside
Street
of the
meeting.
convention sounds pretty exciting.
So the outside of the convention was just a random happenstance. I was with a friend of mine. We were in Florida, I believe at a convention, and it was maybe before the convention started, because I remember Art was supposed to come down. He was supposed to be there, and something happened where he was not. So he was coming down the next day. And we were sitting at Universal Studios enjoying a beverage because it was very warm out. Universal Studios right outside the Jaws ride. And we were sitting there drinking, and this guy walks by. And I said, "Holy S," to my friend. That was George Lucas. And my friend goes, "Get out of here. That wasn't George Lucas." I said, "I bet you $10 that was George Lucas." And he goes, "All right, deal." So I ran after the guy and didn't realize that I had bypassed a security that was escorting him. And I said, "Mr. Lucas," and I remember distinctly he was drinking a soda, a Coke, I believe. Coke
Soda?
or Pepsi?
Oh, a soda, not a soda.
Yeah, not a soda. No, a soda.
Hey-o.
Yeah. And he said yes. And I said, "I just wanted to say that I'm a huge fan, and the reason I do what I do, comic books, is because of my love of Star Wars, and I've always read comic books, and Star Wars really means a lot to me, and I just can't believe I actually got the chance to tell you in person that I love Star Wars and everything you do." And he said, "Oh, well, thank you very much." And he shook my hand, and I turned to my buddy, and I'm like, "You owe me $10 because that was George Lucas." And he goes, "Wow, yeah." So he paid me. I was so excited though that I immediately called my wife and I said, honey, guess who I just met? Guess who I just met?" And she can hear that I was so excited. And she goes, Who?" And I said, "George Lucas." And she's like, "Who's that?" And I said, "I gotta go.
See ya.
I can't talk to you right now." So I hung up. I said, "I'll call you later." I hung up, and then I immediately called Art. And I said, "Art, oh my God, oh my God." He's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, "You never guess who I just met." He goes, "Ooh." I said, "George Lucas." He goes, "No way, get out of here." And that was the reaction I was looking for.
Yeah.
So, and that's why Art and I have been friends all these years.
That makes sense.
At conventions, I met Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, um, Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, Jeremy Bullock,
Yes.
and David Prowse. Yes.
Man.
Never Harrison Ford. Never that guy.
I can't say I'm super shocked.
Yeah, me neither.
It's not that kind of movie, kid.
I'm actually Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I got to meet Carrie Fisher as well. She came to Wizard World Chicago. It was a couple months prior to her passing, and it was one of those things that while meeting her and waiting in line, and she was a little delayed, and there were some people that were kind of agitated and kind of angry that she wasn't there and stuff, and kind of getting angry. And I would just kindly tell them, being like, "Well, nobody's making you be here. You can leave if you want to, but I kind of want to meet Carrie, so I'm going to hang around in line." And then obviously, just a couple months later, very thankful. I'm sure they were very thankful too to stick it out. But yeah, meeting her was pretty fun. Just a quick photo op, and I did get a signature too. And it was one of those where I had told her that like, oh, Princess Leia. I'm like, she was my first like non-cartoon crush. And then she looked up at me after signing, and then she just goes, "You're welcome." I'm like, that's all I needed.
She was nutty in a great way. Because when I met her, I made a large painting for my son's room. It's still in his room actually, and I painted her in the slave outfit, and she said, "Oh my God, you painted this?" I said, "Yeah." And my son was with me, and I said, "Just we're both really big Star Wars fans, and I did a series of paintings for him that hung in his room. So this one I took and I was going to meet her and wanted it to get signed, and she's like, "Where would you like me to sign it?" And I said, "Well, right here next to the body, if you could." And she goes, "Okay," and immediately just signed it right over the breasts and said, "You're welcome," and handed it to me. And I'm like, you know what? Carrie Fisher can sign wherever she wants. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Love it.
Sounds like a fun lady, actually.
she was
One of the best
she was, yeah.
audiobooks I ever listened to is her reading her memoirs.
Mhm.
It's real good.
Yeah, she was funny and she could write really well too. She was for a number of years when she wasn't acting, she was a script doctor
Yeah, yeah.
on a bunch of movies. So they'd have her come in and she'd rewrite it to be
Punch it up.
funnier. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna like to check in on some drawings. Let's jump over to Troy. How you feeling about your Yoda over there?
Doing good. He's very wrinkly, so I got a lot of wrinkles.
Like that little smile on him.
Yeah, got I ran out of my little whiteout pen, so it's it's more like a gray out pen at this point. But
I've got one here if you want. Oh wait, never mind.
yeah, if I could borrow that later, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll email it to you.
Sweet. But I'm just about done actually. I might move on to the next one. Or I might noodle around for a little while.
Yeah, looks good though. I'm digging it.
Thank you.
Let's jump over to Rogers. How's Kit doing over there?
I think so far. So you can tell that it's him. So
Oh,
that's a good sign.
Looks
Got
very
his,
happy.
got his smile on there. Got his tentacles.
I've seen that guy so many times. I've seen him and I've heard people talking about Kit Fisto, and I always just kind of kind of giggled at the name, but never really knew who it was. Because I'm super mature, Matt. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much in Star Wars that's like that though. I don't have any examples right now. I just had to fill the noise or the quiet with noise. There we go. I'm
Mhm.
so nervous being on a podcast with Troy.
I know. We're all in
Said- said nobody ever.
the guy with his solo writing debut of Jungle Drama that is going to be in stores sometime, hopefully soon. So yes, we're all
Yes.
kind of starstruck at the moment. So
Congrats.
Thank you. And what's his name? Eric Marshall and Danny Harrell did all the work on that, made it really super easy. Took like a little bit that I had done long time ago and made it look really good. These guys are awesome.
heck yeah.
So did you do the art, or like did they go over your art, or just redo your art, or?
No, they did brand new art. So when I did it, it was more my like this. I'll almost it just didn't fit. It didn't fit the Archie-esque story there. Um, I can actually find. I could find the sample to show you in a minute. But uh, what's his name? God, I'm drawing a blank. I'm nervous being on a podcast with Troy. Also,
George Lucas. Is that the name you're looking for?
Yeah,
George
George Lucas.
Lucas.
no,
He's
Eric.
drinking a Coke.
Eric Marshall.
Eric Marshall. I'm sorry. I hope he doesn't look at this. He just did such a amazing job on that.
He's got such a
I don't.
lot of different styles he has. But
Yeah,
but he definitely kind of adapted to the kind of book it was, even if it was outside of his normal comfort zone.
actually, the stuff that, from what he said, that was his comfort zone.
Is that right?
Yeah. He just, I think he kind of does what he does on the social media, mostly for sales,
Okay, yeah.
because people eat that stuff up. But he prefers to do stuff like that.
I was gonna say because he has a lot of like realistic portrait work and stuff, and I should just step off to the side because I actually got a package from Eric Marshall earlier today to kind of show an example of some of his work. Unfortunately, none of it is Star Wars related, but we're gonna pretend it's Star Wars related for this episode. So yeah, I requested a Creature from the Black Lagoon sketch card. So this is Eric Marshall's work. So I got that in there.
Nice.
I'm going to cover up my drawing there, so there's no comparisons happening. So there's that. And then, but the one that caught my eye when I found out about him, I had to pick up this Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy Summers there. So but yeah, some examples of Eric Marshall over there.
To touch on something that Troy mentioned, it's going to be a bit of a swerve here, but
Swerve away.
other artists are also here. How often do you have an idea that you would love to do, but you know that it's like outside of your scope, or
All
your
the
style
time.
doesn't
All the
work
time.
well?
Yeah. All the
It's,
time.
it's terrible. I hate it.
I'll draw it for you.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of that, speaking of Fife drawing, can we take a look at what's happening behind the scenes?
Let's see. There's my R2.
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Beautiful.
I'm adding a little BB-8 just now, and I'll have yeah, we'll see.
Good.
The
I think
plus
R2's
side-
kind of cute for a robot.
Yeah, he's definitely a fan favorite. So we're looking over at Franco, and we see the inking happening here as we see Madman.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How
Yeah.
big is BB-8 compared to R2?
about half,
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go closer.
Yeah,
to
he's small. Yeah, it's like a big, like, I wouldn't say like a soccer ball. I'd say like a kickball, because they were usually bigger. But again, I'm dating myself because you guys didn't see Star Wars in the theaters.
I know what a
younger.
kickball is.
There you go. See, now we have some frame of reference. Now I'm feeling included. There we go.
You're not old.
And let's get some more details, Franco. You're talking about you've dated yourself. How were you as a date? Were you courteous? Were you nice? Did you split the bill?
On a date with like going with people?
Oh, just you
that-
said you date yourself, so I just kind of
Oh,
wondering.
I was gonna say, yeah. Well, I had to date myself because nobody else would. So, so yeah, I treated myself real good.
Yeah,
We would, we would go to Roy Rogers and then
Ooh.
to the arcade, usually on date night
you would
by
pay.
ourselves. hmm
pay.
Looking in the mirror saying, money's not an issue tonight, buddy.
Yeah, except don't go over $3.
Money's not an issue, except that it is.
All right, well, take a look at my what's happening with the Wampa Jedi here. Yeah, I'm just going in and just kind of getting all the inking done. Going to layer in some brown cloak a little later, but I just kind of want to just kind of slowly pick this apart and get some shadow work, and I'm just kind of following a reference photo of a cosplayer out there, just kind of looking at some cloakness. But yeah, this is what a Wampa Jedi may or may not look like.
I like it.
I like it.
All right. So I think I covered everybody there. So I'm going to jump back over to our questions. Let's see here. We have Kirby, who is also from the Crimson Cowl Comic Club and has his very own podcast, Under the Cowl of MS. He's asking a couple questions here. The first one he's got is for Franco. Which is easier, teaching or creating comics?
Ooh, definitely
Mm.
teaching is not
No.
the answer there. Creating comics is a lot of hard work, but definitely easier than teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching takes a lot of prep work.
A lot of
That's
patience.
comics. A lot of patience. A lot of things not going your way. When when you're in a classroom full of kids. So, you know,
Yeah,
I
and
would definitely go comics. Yep.
a follow up to that one is kind of what stands out. Like, what did you learn most from each? Like, what did you learn from teaching, and what did you learn from creating comics?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to be asked these hard questions here. Um,
Kirby's got the hardball questions.
yeah, I know. From teaching, I think I kind of just mentioned it. I think a lot of patience. When I first started teaching, I was very I was younger, obviously, but I was very impulsive and I think temperamental as it was. But you learn that that quickly doesn't get you anywhere. So um, patience. I didn't think I would like teaching, so I learned that I like teaching. I like being in the classroom with the kids. My wife suggested it to me. She goes, "Oh, you'd make a great teacher," and I'm like, "Really? I don't see it." And then I went and I did my student teaching, but I was certified K-12 in New York. So as an art teacher, you're certified for kindergarten through 12th grade, and I had to do student teaching and split my time between elementary and secondary. So when I went to the elementary school, I did not like it. Kids did not listen to me. They would be running around everywhere. They would have boogers. They would hug you with the boogers, and it was not a
And not
favorite
just on
thing
their
about it.
face.
What's that?
And not just on their face. The
No,
boogers.
it got everywhere. It would like
Everywhere.
stream down, yeah, everywhere. So I was not a fan of that. So I remember coming home the first day because my first outing was in elementary and then high school. And I remember coming home the first day from elementary telling my wife, I am not going to be a teacher. This is not a thing that's happening. I did not enjoy myself today. When I get to high school, it's different because, you know, you can tell them to sit down, shut up, draw this, you know, and they kind of would. And there was a lot less boogers. Surprisingly, there were still boogers, but just a lot less boogers. And they weren't on me, so I can live with that.
Less
So,
hugs for sure.
so yeah, any teachers that you talk to, they definitely have an either a mentality. They're built for either elementary, middle school, or high school. There are very few who will tell you that, oh, I love going back and forth, or I'd rather do the other one. That's not a thing. Usually you find about 95% of teachers are like, I would never teach elementary, or I would never teach high school. I'm one of those guys that would never teach elementary just because I wouldn't be able to handle the youngins that way. And comics, I learned that comics are my sanity. They keep me centered, grounded. If I'm not making comics, then I'm kind of lost in the world. Comics are something that I can live in. I live in my head a lot. There's a lot of stories in my head all the time. I'm constantly writing things down, constantly drawing. And It's just a way for me to keep sane in this crazy world sometimes. My wife said to me once, she goes, if you're not in your studio drawing or creating for a certain amount of time, you're different, and she notices it, and so um, I guess those are the two things I learned.
I remember too that I think you've said how you've just like you've sat there in your office and you're just kind of staring out into space. And I think she had asked like, like, "Oh, are you okay? What's going on?" And you're just like, "I'm writing." Like you just
Yeah.
kind of I remember you talking about that where you're just like it's all just happening up here.
Yeah, it was actually here sitting in this chair, and I was just kind of like this, staring at the ceiling. And my wife was going to go do some shopping. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Writing." And and because that's just a process sometimes. I mean, you guys do writing, you know what it's like. You're sitting at it, staring at a blank screen or a blank piece of paper. It doesn't happen like that sometimes. Sometimes it does. I went for a walk the other day, and I started thinking about something, and it was before I knew it, it was like a 5 mile walk total, but like 3 miles of the walk I had been typing on my phone the entire time, because sometimes it just happens like that. And other times it's just a struggle because you just sit there and stare at a blank page and you don't write anything for a week because it just doesn't come out.
It's got to sit in there and brew for a while.
Hmm.
I'm a really slow writer. I have to process it all and see where it's going and connect all the threads, and then I can sit down and start typing. It's annoying.
Right,
But
but even like just the initial idea sometimes is like, oh, like you have a germ of an idea, but you have no idea what you're going to do with it, you know?
mhm.
So yeah, you just kind of play scenarios out in your head. I write down a lot of stuff. I wake up and write down a lot of stuff. I write down stuff all the time in the notes on my phone. Um, if anybody were to look at the search history on my computer, they'd be like, "What's wrong with this person?" Because I'm constantly looking things up and stuff. Yeah.
Love it. To jump back over to Star Wars, Katie goes, "Do you have a favorite or special memory related to Star Wars? If so, what is it? Like, is there something that just pops on the head that just makes it special beyond, running into George Lucas just randomly?"
Yeah. There was one special moment that happened a few years ago. Um, I told you the story that I didn't see the original Star Wars in theaters when it first came out. I saw it later. I think it was like December-ish when I saw it. And I remember, or early, late fall. And I begged my dad if I could go see it, and he couldn't take me because he was working, and the restaurant was down the street from the movie theater. So he made a deal with the guy at the movie theater. He goes, "Hey, he slipped him like a couple of bucks. He goes, can you keep an eye on my kid? He wants to watch this movie, but I can't be there with him," type thing. Um, so I got to watch Star Wars, and it was sold out. So I watched it from the front row. I watched the entire thing like this, because the screen was right in front of me for 2 hours. I sat there like that, but I was like thrilled and in awe and so appreciative that my dad let me go see the movie. That when the new movies started coming out, um, the the sequels, the 8, 9, and 10, or 7, 8, 9, rather than the prequels, he said, "Oh, I heard about these new Star Wars movies." And my dad never wants to go to the movie theaters. It's just not that type. Um, and he said, are you going to go see that?" And I said, "Yeah. Do you want to see it?" And he was like, "Yeah." Because then eventually he saw them all on TV and stuff like that. He goes, "Yeah, maybe." And my dad doesn't speak English very well. And I said, "Do you want to go see it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." And he didn't have to say anything else. And it was such an awesome moment because I took my dad and my son to go see a Star Wars movie in the theater. And the three of us were sitting there, big bucket of popcorn, uh, drinks, and I just took it in before the movie started. I'm sitting here with my dad and my son. And my dad is not, a big Star Wars guy, but he had heard of him and he wanted to, he wanted to see the movie. My son is big Star Wars nerd. So it was kind of like a cool moment, you know.
That sounds cool. It's a nice memory.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think that passes as a very great answer to that question.
Thank you.
Anybody else around if they want to chime in? Any kind of special Star Wars memories? Troy, what's your greatest, most special Star Wars memory?
Hmm.
Drawing that Yoda just now.
Yeah. No, I do remember at one point they did like a re-release. I don't know if it was a re-release or if I saw it when it originally came out, but I went to one of them with my father. Um, Honestly, I probably had more fun watching them with my son recently than ever watching them prior. Uh, but it's kind of neat, you know, even if you're not into something to watch a young person, whether it's your kid or somebody else, watch a young person get into something and really enjoy themselves. So that's probably my best Star Wars memory is introducing them to him and watching him get into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, one that I can think of is my brother Aaron, who maybe goes to the theater like once every like 15 years or so. And when Force Awakens came out, you know, he started asking me, he's like, "What's going on with the Star Wars stuff?" Because he was part of the original generation, seeing it and getting the hand-me-downs for the toys and the VHSs and all that stuff that got me into it. So we went to go see it together. I had probably seen it like 5 or 6 times already because that's just what I do. But this was his first time, you know, probably in a theater and like for that decade, and seeing Star Wars. And for up until the beginning of Force Awakens, for quite a while, you're not seeing any like familiar characters and stuff like that. And I can kind of just see that he's just kind of whatever. He's just sitting there watching it. But the reaction that probably a lot of us had when we see the Falcon for the first time and like, oh, let's take that ship. And then they turn around and you see it's the Falcon. And I could see him like, get up in his seat a little bit, being like, oh, hey, here we go. And like just seeing probably what he experienced as a kid and just kind of now seeing that just from seeing the Millennium Falcon. So me witnessing that was pretty awesome.
I went and saw episode 7 with a buddy from work when it came out, and when we're outside of spoiler range for that movie, right?
I think we're good.
Okay, so when
Oh
when
no, I
Kylo...
haven't seen it yet.
Oh. But when Han Solo gets killed,
Oh, wait,
spoilers.
what?
Oh,
What?
come on now.
He got up and he like left the theater for like 5 minutes, and he came back and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "I had to smoke a cigarette, man." It's like, dang.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
Yep, here we go. All right.
Oh man, I love it.
There's one question that also came in. This is from one of our fans, Anthony Laatsch. He asked Franco, "What color should I make this lightsaber on this current drawing right now?" You get to decide the fate of this character.
I would think maybe like a light blue because he's in the snow and it's got to blend in. Or
There we
do
go.
you want to see it?
Hmm.
Do you want to see it? Maybe a dark blue because I don't know.
So
How do you guys read these questions?
I'll go with blue, and then I'll try to do some fun techniques and whiteout things to see what I can do. But I'll go with blue. It's basically going to be like blue, red, green. Can't be purple. Sam Jackson owns the purple lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
BMF.
And another question that came in is from somebody named Scoot McMahon. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of this guy, but he asked a very specific question. He goes, Franco, are you a fan of the Cruisin' Together podcast?
I am not a fan of the Cruising Together podcast. We'll just leave it at that. How about that?
I think that answers it perfectly. I figured you would know what's going on with that one. So,
And Scoot knows why. Scoot knows why.
Franco, that's a pretty good drawing. Have you ever considered turning pro with your art?
No, I'm gonna give it a few years and see. I don't know. Maybe. Possible.
See what happens.
Possible, but I don't know. I don't know
I
if
don't know.
I'll
I
ever make
think
a
you ought to
living
give it a shot.
I don't know if I'll ever make a living at this. We'll see.
Speaking of going pro, my question for Franco, how did you break into comics?
Oh, geez.
Every detail so that I can write it down.
Yeah, I don't know that I have. I still feel like I'm on the outside looking in. You know, you get that imposter syndrome type thing happening.
Oh yeah.
Are you serious?
I
Do
know
you really?
imposter syndrome so well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fife and I were talking about this a few weeks ago. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets there. It's always there.
So it never goes away.
I think just because of
Great.
the way I grew up, I was I have a sister and she's 5 years younger than I am. So and my parents were told that they couldn't have any more kids after me. So I I kind of grew up alone, you know, as an only kid for a while. But always kind of living in my head. Um, always making scenarios worse than they actually are type thing. So I think
Yeah.
that kind of contributes to it. Um, breaking into comics, I've always been very determined about things. So um, I had when I got out of college, I wanted to do artwork when I went to college. When I was in college, I saw people filming, and I'm like, oh, that's what I want to do because no one ever makes any money at art. And then when I left, I actually had a degree in film and a degree in art. Um, but I didn't think art would be something where I'd be able to make a living at it. So I decided I was gonna. I liked comics, and I had an opportunity to open a comic book store, which failed miserably. And I learned all the lessons of what not to do with Oh Yeah Comics when we opened that. But part of the thing that kind of got rekindled for me having the comic book store was I always loved comics, but my love of drawing again, because I set up an art table in that comic shop and I met some lifelong friends from that shop and started drawing again. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to try my hand at breaking into comics, and I drew sample pages, sent them out everywhere, went to shows to show my sample pages, got turned down by everybody. I have in somewhere in my storage room, I have rejection letters from every comic company that existed back then because I was turned down by all of them. Eventually worked for most all of them. The only one I never worked for was Marvel, just because of happenstance. But I decided I'm getting turned down by all these guys or all these companies. I'm just going to start my own comic. So I started a comic book called Flesh and Blood, which was about vampires, and was trying to do my best imitation of Neil Adams and guys like that, not having any success and having them look anything like that. But I was doing uh, the book called Flesh and Blood, and it was taking a long time to draw because I was working, married, you know. So in my brilliant deduction, I thought, hey, what would get me out there more is if I did something like a cartoony book. So I started a book called Weirdsville at the same time, and because Flesh and Blood was coming out once every 3 or 4 months by the time I got the artwork done and got it written, and I thought Weirdsville I could get out like kind of like every other month. And I don't know what in my brain said, hey, you could draw this realistic looking book and a cartoon book at the same time, and it would make things go faster and better by adding more work to myself. I don't know what I was thinking, but I did that. I did both books at the same time, and just because everybody else had turned me down. And one thing led to another. I met Art. we did a crossover of our characters, Weirdsville and Craybaby, and then we kind of developed Patrick the Wolf Boy together. And
Hey,
that was,
look at that. As if
yeah.
on cue.
So that was turned down by everybody. As a matter of fact, that we got Previews was the only company around distributing comics at the time, and they sent me a letter saying that they're never going to carry any of my books ever again. We were just getting ready to, we were just getting ready to put out Patrick, and long story short, they weren't going to carry Patrick. We decided to do it anyway. Patrick winds up in Preview somehow, and then it sells well, and then we kept selling, and eventually there was someone at DC, Jan Jones and Dan DiDio, who read Patrick, liked Patrick, and wanted to bring that to DC with the Titans, and that's how we wound up on Tiny Titans. So I think, Patrick was what kind of got us, going. Oh, there it is, Titans.
I feel like you gave Anthony some cue cards or something.
I wish
Like-
I wish I had prepped this, but no one's going to believe
All
that I didn't prep any of this.
Yeah, here's
All right,
the
when I say the name Jan, I need you to get this one ready.
the
So
rest.
I've heard the story about sorry, Anthony.
That's right.
I've heard the story about Diamond telling you they're not going to carry your books anymore.
Right.
But I've never heard like what the reasoning was. Is that an interesting part of the story, or?
Yeah, because the book sucked, and and they weren't. The main reason why they're not going to carry anything is because there's no, it wasn't translating to sales. So basically, we were doing books like Weirdsville and Craybaby, and we were getting low sales amounts, and they told us, look, we're not going to carry any more of your books. We're doing a small independent book. We're doing everything. We're writing, drawing, editing, publishing, the whole thing. So it's a lot of work on top of all the other stuff you're doing in your regular everyday life. So them coming back saying, yeah, your sales stink. We're never going to carry anything you're doing ever again. That was rude. And I called them on it. And I'm like, what does this mean? And the guy on the phone, who I'm not going to mention, he's a big guy in the comics now. He worked for Diamond back then, and he said, yeah, that should have never come out to you like that. It should never have been worded like that. But basically, yeah, we're not going to carry your books anymore because of sales. So then, Art and I were talking about, well, what are we going to do? Because we just had Patrick. We were just going to introduce Patrick, and they weren't going to carry it in their book. I said, screw it, we'll do it ourselves. We'll just put it out there. What happened was that the first book wound up in Previews. Somebody had picked it up at one of the shows and put it in Previews. And, Art and I were accusing each other like, hey, we said we weren't going to send it to them. Why did you go back on your word? And I said, I didn't do it. And the same thing, he didn't do it. And we called them and we said, hey, how did this book wind up? You said you were never going to care. He goes, oh, somebody in your company sent it to us, which was a lie because we were the only two people in the company, and they said that it was one of the people that we put in the credits. We made up everybody in the credits. we made everybody up because it made us look like we had a bigger company. So we knew that was a lie. They had picked it up somewhere, and then the book wound up in Previews. And I said, well, screw those guys. We're going to teach them a lesson. We're not going to fill any orders, so screw them. Unfortunately, the orders were good, good enough to make money. And Art's like, well, what are you going to do now? Or what are we going to do now? I said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to stand our ground, and we're going to give them copies of the book because we're going to get a whole big check for this because money talks. But what we learned after that is that we're not going to make the same mistakes as we did with Weirdsville and Craybabies. We did Weirdsville number 1, 2, 3, and the sales would drop off. He did Craybabies number 1, 2, 3, and the sales would drop off. So with Patrick, we came up with the bright idea of not putting any numbers on the book. We came out with Patrick the Wolf Boy number 1, and that's the only book of Patrick that has a number on it. All the other ones are specials. So there's the Patrick Halloween special. There's the Patrick Father's Day special. There's the Patrick Christmas special. So we did all these specials, and sales were consistently good. They didn't diminish. And then, you know, the sales tactics that we used actually raised sales on the book, got it to a wider audience. You know, we've told this story on our podcast where we would, you know, go to all these shows in different cities and we would reverse shoplift. You know, we'd take the book under our coat and walk into a bookstore and put it on the shelf and then walk out. You know, so we got a wider distribution that way. And you know, it was just guerrilla marketing at its, you know, from two guys who didn't know what the hell they were doing, you know, and then just got from there. So I would say Patrick was kind of what got me thinking I was a pro, but not until we got the Titans job, if as it were, because then, you know, we spun it into a whole bunch of other things from there. So that was a long-winded answer, and I apologize.
That was a good answer.
No, that I see what I've found in the comic book world, mostly with like people at a higher level than me, is they don't like to give long-winded answers. You know what I mean? They like keep information to a minimum. It seems like in the comics world, everybody is trying to keep secrets instead of like spreading information. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world because it's just like, well, how much should I charge to do a cover? However much you think is worth it, man. It's like, well, I don't know. Because it's like nobody knows the name Matt Rodgers. So if I'm sitting there like $250 for a cover, you know, is that a ridiculous amount of money? Or $30? Am I selling myself too short? But it's like, I like long-winded answers like what you gave because it helps, like, you know, I'm constantly taking notes about process and stuff like what you were just talking about, just to keep in the back of my mind to see if it will work for a situation that I'm in later.
Yeah, I think that's the teacher in me. So,
we'll teach
yeah,
away, man.
Yeah, I've never been shy about, you know, giving up answers in secrets. There are no secrets really, but you know, I've never been shy about giving answers to things when kids ask me, in terms of, even if the answer is, you know what, you should go find out what that is, you know, in those terms as well. But yeah, it's real. For me, it was trial and error, you know, and figuring out what you want to do, where you want to go. You know, how I kind of got more into the cartoony than the realistic stuff, and things like that. But yeah,
I'd like to
Was
hear a little bit
anything-
more about that. Was that a like a matter of efficiency that you
terms of
stuck
what?
more with the cartoony stuff, or is that where your preferences lie?
I think that came out of more of getting things out in a timely manner, because when I had a lot going on at the time, I was doing comic books. I wanted to do comic books, but I was working full time. I was getting my master's degree, and I was student teaching at the same time. And I just had a new kid, you know, born in the house. So I think cartoony happened because of all those things, and getting, you know, the realistic thing is, you know, time consuming at a board. Not that cartooning isn't, but it just was easier for me. So I think it just kind of evolved out of that. And now I kind of find this like style halfway in between sometimes. I don't know, I like to tell people I have art ADHD, because I just kind of go back and forth between like more realistic stuff, more cartoony stuff, and everything in between. It's just, you know, I guess being an art teacher as well, just changing all the time.
So I was while you were at New York Comic Con, I was at a different one in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and one of the guys that I had sold art to previously came up to me, and he was looking at these monster drawings that I had done, and I had done them with brush pens. These what are they? Pentel? I think Rogers, you told me about these Pentel brush pens.
I use a different Pentel. I use the pocket brush pen that's black.
Oh, okay.
But
well, at any
it's the
rate,
same idea.
Guy said to me, "These don't even look like you, but I like them." And I thought about you your art, how you experiment with like pop art and things like that when he said it. I thought, that's part of the fun is always experimenting with different things and finding new things to do. It would be so dull if you just had like a formula, like, okay, this is how I'm always going to draw a face. This is how I'm always going to draw a hand. It would be so dull to not experiment with new things and try different stuff. I admire that so much out of somebody that has a name, within the industry, but you're still willing to like shake it up and try different things. I think it would get horribly, horribly boring to be formulaic about how you draw every single thing. I think it's
Yeah,
wonderful to be
yeah.
experimenting.
I think that really evolved out of teaching too, because I was known as the teacher. You come up, hey, kid would come up and say, hey, I want to try this. I'm like, great, let's do it. Let's see what it looks like. And I was big on saying, not everything you do is going to come out, great.
Right.
You're going to make some stuff that looks real bad, but that's part of the learning process.
Yeah.
I've done, I'll go back and look at some of my artwork and I'm like, yeesh, why, what was I thinking? Type thing.
Mm.
But I see the evolved nature of things over time,
Mhm.
because I'm constantly drawing, constantly doing things, and not everything works out in my favor in terms of new stuff that I'm doing either. But again, I keep chugging along, and I don't think I can not do something. Yeah, I can't not do art, basically.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing your art therapies pieces. Like if we don't see anything from you for a while, and then all of a sudden just kind of randomly being like, "All right, I needed a paint," and
Yeah.
we just kind of jump into something. And one of those things ended up being this piece right here.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Just a random painting therapy session, and yeah.
Yeah. That was fun to do, because no one's telling me what I can or can't do. It's not anything like I've really done a lot of before. So that's where I kind of just stretch into those places in my head and say, oh, let's see where this goes. Thank you for that. Thank you for buying that. You putting food on the table. It's awesome.
Here's another deep question here from Kirby from Under the Cowl of MS. If you could have met any other future creator from past or present that you may have ended up working with, who would you have matched up well like you do with art? Like, is there anybody else, past or present, living or dead, that you think that you could have that same kind of connection that you do with Art Baltazar?
Uh, no, I don't think so. It's that's I've never been asked that before. It's, yeah, it's weird with art. It was just a weird kismet thing. We just kind of like had the same mentality going into things when we create, because we do a lot of things separately, but when we create together, it's fun. Like wait, when you're doing something on your own, you're kind of like, okay, I don't know if this is going to be good or not type thing. You want to do it, you have fun doing it, and you want to create that thing. But with him, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, because we get on a roll, and if we're writing something together, it never feels like writing. Like before, I was talking about staring at the ceiling type thing. With writing with art, it always comes out of conversations, and we always wind up laughing. And if we're laughing, then we're trying to write it down. A lot of times when we're together, we're like, okay, stop, I got to write this down. Like, you're going too fast. I can't write that fast type thing. Is what tends to happen is if we're on the phone together, and I'm typing away, and like he's drawing, or we'll be laughing. We're like, oh, that's good. We know that's going to be good. So I don't think there is really any other creator because I've worked with other creators and there's a different kind of connection. I like working with other people, but with him, it's on a different level. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think it definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
Was he the first other creator that you really like worked with in a serious way?
Yeah, I think I had worked with other people. Like on Flesh and Blood, I had a friend who was a creator of that with me, and even on Weirdsville, I was writing with some other people just because it was funny. Ideas were, but with art, it was it kind of clicked right away. We were kind of into the same things. We were into Star Wars and pizza and all that stuff, and it didn't hurt that at the time he lived about 20 minutes from here, so he would always be over here and we'd be hanging out and drawing and stuff like that, and it just kind of developed over time. So even even if we don't see each other for a while, like in New York, it was just like the entire weekend just sitting there laughing the whole time because we're just you know sitting next to each other telling stupid stories and you know um, talking about things, and then inevitably it comes to, ooh, hold on, I got to write that down because that's funny type thing.
Yeah, because I've noticed like I've 99% of my work has been with Fife, because that's all we've done. But I was
A
briefly
bit
I
more
was on
reserved in
another.
my comedy comes from
Huh? What?
What's it?
There's a ghost.
ooh, I missed it.
But no, like I was briefly on another project where I was teamed up with another writer to do like an 8-page story for a book that the whole project kind of fell apart because of copyright stuff, and just seeing how that person would write was so different than what I'm used to with Fife, because me and Fife have like a little our little process is down pretty pat. You know what I mean? Like when he writes something, I know exactly what he's thinking, and when he writes something, he knows how I'll interpret it for the most part. So it like works
Sometimes.
out really well.
Right.
But then like this other dude was like, "Here's this story I'm thinking about," and I was like, "Dude, have you seen my art? Like I can't do this story."
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, that happens. Like when I'm writing for other people, I've evolved past writing a script because I'm also an artist, so I like the visual flow of setting up a thumbnail sketch on a page. So usually I give artists a thumbnail script, and I ask them beforehand if it's okay with them because I know some artists are like, hey, that's my job. I'm the one that's got to set up the page and stuff like that. And I'm always like, well, you could change things, but this is kind of the sentiment of the page that I'm thinking, and this is the way I see it in my head. You don't have to go with this, but with art, I don't even do that. If you see like a script, like we have the Teen Titans Go to the library coming out in January, and it's the only example that just popped into my head. Um, if you see the script for that, it was literally like bullet points on a page, and we sent it to DC, and they're like, well, what is this? I'm like, that's our script, and they're like, well, are you gonna write it out? And we're like, no, you'll see it, type thing. So that's kind of what they get now, when we're working together, because we're working on another project right now, and the editor's like, well, are you sending me a script? And we're like, no. And they're like, well, how am I going to know what you guys wrote? I'm like, well, you'll see the page when it comes in, because it's all like outliner notes, and I send it to him, and then he creates the page, and he does the roughs, and that's kind of what we send in as our script. He sends in the roughs, with everything kind of dialogued in and stuff like that. So it's a weird kind of way that we've developed of working.
It works.
I mean, you and Art have a pretty distinct look and feel for your books. You'd think all these editors would know exactly what they're going to get when they hire you. They
You
would
would
just
think that.
wait on the finished product.
Yeah, you would think that, but there's there's some editors who are like, I'm going to edit, and it usually turns into, yeah, that's not what's going to happen. So
You're just trying to make the job easier.
yeah, it's just absolutely. You know, the reason I did so much do so much writing too is because while I was teaching, it was easier. You know, because I didn't do a lot of artwork professionally. I would do a cover here and there. I would do a couple of pages here and there, but I never committed to actually doing a sequential book until the Titans book. And the only reason I did the art on the Titans book that's coming out is because it was during COVID, and I was at home.
Oh, it's been sitting for that long.
Yeah, I drew it a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's
So now
the Teen Titans Go to the Library.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's there's three artists on the book. There's me, there's Art, and Agnes Garbowska. So
Yes.
Agnes did like about, I think it was like 20 pages. I did 80 pages of the book, and Art did about 20 or 30 pages of the book. Trying to remember exactly the page count, but yeah.
Man,
Dang.
dang.
Agnes
Yeah,
is awesome.
COVID was a weird blessing.
Yeah. I love you know, all the horrible things that happened during COVID, but being home, I loved it. I loved not being able to go anywhere and
Mhm.
just being here all the time.
That's what got me and Fife to finally buckle down and actually like do a project that we've always planned and has always fallen apart. It's like, well, everything's closed. We can't go and do anything. So
Right.
I drew a picture of an astronaut smiling and sent it to him and just said, write a story for this guy.
Well, that's cool. But that's
Okay.
that's the things that kind of like fall into place and say, okay, let's go with this. You know, that's kind of what happened with it's kind of what happened with me and Art, and you know, we did a crossover with Weirdsville Crazy, and then Art just showed me this picture of Patrick. He had a name for him, but he wasn't a werewolf, he was a vampire. And I'm like, no, it'd be funnier if he was this, and it just kind of riffed and started, you know, taking off in a direction, and that's awesome when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
D. Brad has another question here. D. Brad asks, what goes into pitching a comic story such as Deadman Tells the Spooky Tales versus your own character, like with Faye and the Moon? Kind of, you know, pitching to, you know, obviously to DC Comics, but then working on something that's, you know, your own. What kind of prep goes into pitching these stories?
It's really the same for, oh, thanks. Yeah. Faye and the Moon.
Yeah.
Anthony's got
I
all
mean,
the props.
yeah.
These are what he was
I got
talking.
them too. They're over there though.
Yeah, Deadman is owned by DC, so I just had an idea. Deadman and the Teen Titans Go were both pitched at the same time and both got greenlit at the same time. So it shows you the difference. Like Deadman came out last year, and Titans is coming out next year, at the beginning of the year. But they were both pitched at the same time, and I was writing both at the same time and drawing Titans at the same time. So you know, that was all happening. But Faye is brand new. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like when there's a property that is owned by someone like DC owns Deadman, I just had the idea for what to do. You know, we'll have him as like the host telling all these stories, and then I came up with the stories. And Faye is just, you know, the characters that I came up with, and so it's similar. It's just one is a known quantity and the other one isn't. You know, so like, you know, you're doing a pitch for Superman, everybody knows who Superman is. Maybe not everybody knows
Who
who
now?
Deadman. Yeah, maybe not everybody knows who Deadman is, but a hell of a lot of people know who Superman is. Maybe not as many people know who Deadman is, and absolutely no one knows who Faye is. So, you know, that's what you have stacked up against you. So, I don't know that the process is any different though.
And
With
you
Faye and the Moon,
go ahead, Fife.
with DC, were you pitching the character versus Faye and the Moon pitching the story, or was it story both ways? Is that a question? I think.
Yeah, I think for Deadman it was story as well, and Faye is definitely story because that's mine.
Right.
for something like, you know, Teen Titans Go to the Library, I just had an idea for the characters, and then the story evolved out of that. So, you know, as a writer, it goes both ways sometimes. Like, you know, sometimes the idea comes from over here, sometimes from over here. But yeah, and they come out of the strangest places. You know, like for Faye, the idea popped into my head when I was driving one night. My wife was in the car, kind of half asleep, and I saw the moon in the sky, and I started thinking, you know, the song by the Cars was playing, and there's a line in the song that said, you know, I see you standing there under the midnight, um, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool line, and it was going over and over in my head, and there was a full moon out, and then I'm thinking, you know, under the midnight, it'd have to be a moonless night. What if someone plucked the moon out of the sky? What would that look like? What would happen? And then the whole story just kind of started tumbling out of my brain, and I woke up my wife to write it all down because I was driving. So I didn't want to pull over on the side of the road. So I'm like, can you write this down? And she goes, I was kind of asleep. I'm like, I know, just write this down. Please. So thing.
And
So
you're
on the go ahead.
just to stick on Faye and the Moon for a little bit, because you worked with Catherine and Sarah, the Satrin sisters.
Yeah.
And so when you came up with this idea for Faye, is there some, like, did you have them in mind that you wanted to work with them someday, or based
Yeah.
on how your brain was that this is the thing that they should do?
One of my favorite things to do at a show is to go through Artist Alley. I try and do it early in the morning before anybody else is there, and then, you know, early on in the show, and then later when everybody's there, if I have time to walk through. And on one of those walkthroughs, I found Catherine and Sarah, and I was looking at their artwork, and I'm like, this is great. I would love to work with these guys someday. I don't know on what, but I would like to work on something, you know. So that gets kind of filed in the back of your head. I had a conversation with them. Hey, would you guys ever be interested? And we're like, yeah, you know, if anything ever comes about. And then, you know, one day the story for Faye popped into my head. I approached them about it. I said, hey, would you guys be willing to do this? You know, I can't pay you. I can't even guarantee the book will come out, you know? And they're like, yeah, we'd love to do comics, you know, because they had never really done a comic before. And we just happened to get lucky. You know, my agent picked it up, and she was able to sell it with them attached, and it all kind of fell into place. And hopefully we'll be able to do a sequel at some point.
How many pages did they put together to get your agent interested, or did they do the whole book?
No, they didn't do the whole book. I didn't want them to do the whole book. Well, actually, that's not true. The initial idea was for them to see if they liked it, and then see if they'd be willing to do the book totally, and then, you know, we'd talk about how we could get them books or payment or something if we ran a Kickstarter or something. So, and about that time, I was approached by an agent, because I had no use for agents. I've never found a use for them in anything I did. But this agent approached me. Long story of how I got involved with that, and she was great. And she goes, well, send me ideas. And one of the ideas was Faye. And I told Catherine and Sarah, I said, hey, let's try it with them. Are you willing to do it with an agent involved? And they said yes. And then I think they did something like about 10 to 15 pages, I think, to sell the book, which was way and above what I would have someone do. Because if you can't see what someone's capable of in like 3 to 5 pages, why waste time if it's never going to happen? But, you know, they come from an animation background, and they were just great to work with.
Awesome. What my
A
question
lot
is
of
going
fun
to
to
be,
talk. They're a lot of fun to talk to, because I think Art has described it too, that if you ask them something, like, they're just, you're talking to both of them at the same time, and they're like just
Yeah,
back and forth, and it's just like
they finish each other's sentences. It's real weird to talk to them in person.
it's
But
pretty entertaining.
yeah, they're awesome.
I actually learned something reading that book.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, well, no, not some. I mean, art wise, learned something that they do with a female face. I'll draw like a little terrible female face. So if it's a girl, they do that. If it's an adult, they do that. And it's such a subtle difference, but it really helps to differentiate. You can still tell from like eyelashes that it's a female, but such a subtle differentiation. I'm like, God, why did I never think about that? That's genius. These ladies are brilliant. They're great.
They're great. They were so much fun to work with, and I've been so lucky to work with so many cool people and talented people and nice people. So it's been lucky. I've been lucky.
Awesome.
Well, I think my Madman is all linked now.
There we go.
I wasn't paying attention. You said that you did your sketch in a like a pen? Did you just light box it?
Yeah, I light box it while we were on the air. So here's my pen sketch right there. Then I light boxed it onto a piece of Bristol paper right there.
So when inevitably Anthony asks, "Can I buy that from you?"
Yeah.
Does he get the pen sketch too?
Usually this is what I put in the binder and I sell afterward. But yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but,
it is on my list of questions here is, what form of payment can I send over to you? Because, yeah, that will happen towards the end of the show. That's why,
that was not my intention to begin with, just so you know. I saw a Madman on your board, and that's why I drew a Madman Jedi. So,
and that was my intention. I just got that sticker 3 seconds before we hit record, and I'm like, oh, I got to slap that on the board. And
it was meant to be. See, it's weird.
Yeah, as Fife and Rodgers
you psychologically, Franco.
Yeah,
Fife and Rodgers know that if they draw like me into Happy Astronaut or give me the option to the opportunity to a pinup, they know I'm just going to buy so many copies. So it works.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going to put you on every page of the book now.
Well, that's what those guys know that I'm not kidding at all. So yeah, go right ahead. That happened with Mike Allred because I had donated to the Kickstarter that his son Han was making a documentary about Mike Allred, and one of the options was to be drawn into a future Allred comic book. And like, wow, to be drawn by Mike and Laura Allred, that's something I didn't know was ever going to be a possibility.
Wow.
And when I told him the number of copies that I was pre-ordering for X-Ray Robot #3, he kind of flipped out and he said just that. He's like, well, I'm going to draw you in every book I do from now on just so I can sell that many copies.
There you go.
So when he came out with the new Ecstatic and whatever he's working on, I keep looking in the background to see if I'm somewhere, but so far he hasn't lived up to his word. But I'll hold.
You just have to remind him, Anthony. Just
yeah, I will. Cool. So yeah, I'm looking at the remaining questions here, and I think I'm pretty much almost done as far as the prepared stuff. So if you guys had anything else, feel free to kind of have that in the chamber. I want to bring it back to Star Wars because once again, my friend Katie from Crimson Cowl, she is a huge Star Wars fan, and she has a very specific Star Wars question here. What would your lightsaber look like? The color, the style, the hilt, etc. We already know that Franco decided that a Wampa Jedi needed a blue lightsaber, but if you had the choice of your own lightsaber, kind of, where would you go with? What would you go with?
I think for me, it'd definitely be like green. I think
Green's pretty great.
Yeah, because I do purple, but I can't really do purple because of Sam Jackson. I think he has proprietary rights.
That is 100% true.
So I have to go with green.
Yeah, and the green one was such an awesome moment in Jedi, just because we've only seen the blues and the reds, and then just debuting that green one definitely stands out.
Do you know why it was green?
No, but I bet you do.
I do.
Why is it green?
I'm not going to tell you. I'm just kidding. No, it's because They had it when it was a blue blade, it didn't stick out enough against the blue sky on the barge scene.
That makes
Oh,
sense.
okay.
You're a nerd. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
we
I
love
have the trilogy on Laserdisc. So
Laser
on
legit.
Pew disc,
Right.
what?
on Pew disc, laser disc, Pew.
Oh, what? See it?
Rodgers, what would be your? Oh, he's done. He's leaving.
I'm gone. You guys called me a nerd.
Life, what would be your lightsaber?
Hey, hold on now. That was just Franco that called you a nerd. We like you.
Oh,
Hey, don't speak for
Wait,
us.
I don't. It's not that I don't like him. I think it's cool. I like a nerd. I like being a nerd.
Fife,
Amen.
if you had a choice. Oh, there's the Pew discs he's showing off there.
it's awesome.
Look
It's
at
so
that.
heavy.
I'd probably go with blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
I like red. I bought one of the replica lightsabers, and I had the choice, and I went with red.
Yeah.
Not that I would prefer, Sith overall, but I just love how that looks. So, Troy, do you have a lightsaber preference color?
Hot pink.
Hot pink. There we go.
There you go.
Hot link. Is that what you said?
Hotline. Yeah.
So we know that Troy likes hot pink very much, Lucas. So
Ooh,
Actually, I do like the green, like the glowing green. I think those do look cool, but I don't know. I just said hot pink to be different.
I'd go with red because it's the coolest, because the bad guys are the coolest ones.
fair enough. The last
They're
question.
the worst.
The last
the last
question.
question. Well, it
The
means
last
we're almost
question we
done.
have.
There we
Well, from the prepared list here.
Oh, okay.
So D. Brad, because normally I'll just reach out to our audience, and but the ones I reached out to already had like a bunch of awesome questions. So I'm like, I don't even need to ask the masses. So these ones made the final cut here. D. Brad goes, do you have input on final approval on what the characters look like in the stories that you write? So even something like, let's start with like Faye and the Moon, perhaps. Like, did the Saturn sisters come in and kind of, or did you have a vision in mind on what these
Yeah,
characters-
it's weird because the reason I find artists to work on is because on books is because I know that it's not gonna that is not my style. The story was in my head. I kind of have an idea of what I want, but I know that I'm not going to draw it because that's not going to be my sentiment to get the story across that I want. Having Catherine and Sarah be the artist on it, like I'm like, yeah, their artwork is going to tell this story. So I really kind of left it up to them. I told them what I wanted from the characters. They designed everything. I would come back and say, no, this is wrong for the mom, or no, this is the villain. This isn't working. Other stuff was just spot on. I saw it and I'm like, yes, that one. And they would do a lot of different sketches for different things. That guy you brought up, that's the Rat King right there, and he was specific in my head of what I wanted. But the crown that they added was what really kind of sold me on their design for it, because they put all these different knickknacks in the crown and stuff like that. So
pencil and a spoon in there.
yeah.
Love it. Cool. Yeah, I think I've reached the point in my drawing where I'll probably come up with the background later, but I'm pretty satisfied here. I'm just trying to add some more white out to kind of bring out the white of the wampa. Added some yellow stains in the beard and the chest and around the eyes that we see in some of the wampas. Got the missing arm there. I debated if I was going to put blood dripping out of it or not, see how fresh that was, but I opted out of it. But yeah, so I guess this is potentially
Looks cool.
what a Wampa Jedi could look like.
I like it. Good
Fife.
job, man.
Fife,
Oh, am I showing my art?
yeah, show your work here. Let's see, put it more in front of your face or your shirt if you could.
There we go.
There we
I
go.
like that this is kind of like basically devolved into a math class. Show your work. Show your work. How did you get this answer from this long division
That's all I
problem?
got.
Exactly.
I was interested in what Franco was talking about, so
before
I
we
didn't get
started
much.
this conversation, you didn't have an R2 and a BB-8.
That's right.
And now you
I had a
do.
blank piece of paper.
I didn't look up. Can you show it again? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nope, one time only. You'll have to watch the replay.
Good
You
job,
looking
man.
out, Troy?
I am.
Thanks,
Good
buddy.
job. 2 thumbs up. You do good, bud.
And looking at Kit Fisto there over by Rodgers.
There's my Kit Fisto with a smile. He's awesome. I love Kit Fisto. He needs a Disney series.
Yeah, I love the
Probably
glare.
not going to get
Guys.
one with a name like that.
Fisto.
And Troy, can you talk us through what's happening on your screen after your Yoda there?
He's going to that sloppy seconds website. Sorry.
Well, this is my sloppy second drawing. Let me find my. Hang on. So there's Yoda with his puppy dog eyes, like Puss in Boots, like the little kitten eyes.
Right.
I don't know what I was thinking, giving him like cutesy eyes, but that's my Yoda. And then now I'm drawing a Boba Fett with no reference whatsoever. So it's definitely not normal Boba Fett. Maybe it's like
your stuff like
Mad Magazine Yoga Fett.
I look
Yoga.
at your artwork whenever I see your figures. Are you like really influenced by Keith Geffen?
I am.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
I am.
you can see the influence there. Yeah.
Yeah. I got
He
to
loves
meet him.
Trencher.
Got to meet him
Yeah.
a few months ago. Really nice guy. It's very sad to hear that he passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been mentioned on this show several times in relation to Troy's artwork and talking about his experience with meeting him. And yeah, at the time of this recording, it was a week or even less that we had gotten the news about that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
I was super blessed to be able to work with him on a project. So that was just kind of like, that's, you asked a question about when I thought I made it. Well, that was one of the moments I'm like, oh, I'm working with Keith Geffen. This is like unbelievable.
yeah.
What was the project?
It was ambush bug number
6,
5 or 7. Yeah, because they didn't do
Oh.
it number 6. They did number
Yeah.
7. Yeah.
I
That
heard
is
Actually
not
on
too
one of
far.
his own characters. That's cool.
Yep.
I heard he's super protective about Ambush Bug too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So when they approached us about the project, we're like, really? But it was super cool just being able to talk to him, and he wrote out the whole. We were on the phone with him, and he mapped out the whole story, and he goes, "You guys good with that?" And we're like, "We're good with anything you want to do, sir."
No kidding.
Yeah.
He I had been warned about asking for critiques and everything, protect your feelings and all that.
Mhm.
But he was just so nice. Just as close to his perfect hero meeting as you could get.
Yeah. Do you want to hear the first time I ever met? You want to hear the story about the first time I ever met him?
Please.
It was as a fan, and I was at a convention, and Lobo Paramilitary Special had come out by this time.
Uh-huh.
And I was in line to get my book signed, and there's this little kid in line ahead of me, and he brings up the special, and he brings it to Keith Geffen, and he looks at the kid, and he goes, "Where the hell did you get this?" And the kid goes, "My mom." He goes, "Your mother bought this for you? Where's your mom?" And the kid looks around like a deer in the headlights, and he goes, "Over there." He goes, "Come with me." And he gets up from his table, takes the kid over to his mom, and I just see him like berating the mom. Like, "Why did you buy this for this kid? Like, what is wrong with you?"
Dang.
And he came back and he goes, "What can I do for you?" I'm like, "My mom's not here." And he laughed and he signed my book. So that was cool.
That's really cool. I had with me, so the convention promoter that set up the meeting had mentioned that he was going to come by. Oh no, he didn't mention it. but Keith had added me as a friend on Facebook a few weeks prior, and then I had posted something, and he responded to something that I drew, said, "I'm going to come by and say hi at this convention." And I screenshot it. I think I sent the screenshot to the boys here in our chat. I'm like, hard to believe that this just happened. Did this really happen? But so he came by. He was there to say hi to one of the former editors of Marvel. Can't remember. Very tall guy.
Jim Shooter.
Yes. Yep. Jim Shooter.
He's the only really tall guy besides Mike Richardson in comics. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was stopping by to say hi to Jim Shooter, and he came over to the table because he knew that I was bit of a fan.
Yeah. He's just, that's what made him so great. Like he had no qualms about talking to new talent. It doesn't matter that this guy's a legend in the industry, and just look at the work that he's done, and he could be just like, psh, go away, But he wasn't like that. He was approachable. He was a curmudgeon. He would just rip into things. But he was a good guy. He was a great creator, a friendly creator, and there's not many of those guys around.
Yeah,
It was
reading a lot of people's words about him and stuff was exactly that, where they throw in about the curmudgeon, but also saying like, yeah, he's the nicest guy. Like that's part of the personality that everybody knew going in, and
Yeah, but the curmudgeon part was funny. Like,
yeah,
we had him sign at Oh Yeah Comics a couple years ago, and he just went off on things, and I was just in stitches the whole time. It was just so fun.
love it.
wild. I got I have a few heroes in the in cartooning, and I got to meet two of them at that convention. It was pretty fun. Other
Oh,
one being your buddy Art. that I
oh,
got to meet.
yeah, he was a cool guy. I like
Yeah,
that guy.
I'm glad you like him.
Yeah.
You would have wasted a whole lot of time of your life if you didn't like him. Why are you hanging out with that nerd? God.
Patrick the Wolf Boy is really cool, but gosh, this Art guy. Ugh.
It's a really good origin story of how you guys were setting up at your tables next to each other, and I think Art had witnessed you having maybe a
Bit of a meltdown. Yeah.
situation, and then him just commenting something along the lines of like, "Hey, you're not going to sell too many books like that."
Yeah, I did not think we were going to be friends, honestly, when we first met. So I'm glad it turned out otherwise. But yeah, I kind of lost it on someone because they were just being doofuses, and then he came up right after that and said, "Hey, you sell a lot of books that way?" And I'm like, "Who the hell do you think you are, buddy?" I'm like, "Do I need to go off on you right now?" And then he sets up next to me, and I'm like, "Oh man, this guy's good." And it was at the beginning of the weekend. And I'm like, "This guy's going to be next to me all weekend. This is not going to end well." And it just turned out we were just laughing the entire time, talking and everything. And then we found out we were like 20 minutes from each other. And we're like, hey, we should hang out. And that's another thing. You do that with people. You're like, hey, we should hang out. And then like nothing ever happens,
Mhm.
But then, we kind of contacted each other soon after that. And yeah, we're like, yeah, let's hang out. And it was cool.
And because of you guys and what you guys done with All Yeah Comics, that's why this very show exists, because we're all Yeah fans that we're in the I Like Pink group, and Happy
That's awesome.
Astronaut posting their Zoop campaign, and me backing it before like really knowing who they were, me dropping the Guji Nana art, the art print that I did, or the fan art, and Fife reaching out to me, and you guys doing covers for Kid Slapshot, and me throwing it out there during an Oh Yeah podcast, and Johnny thinking that I was the creator of Kid Slapshot because I was promoting it. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to like type as fast as I could, be like, oh no, I'm not, I'm not taking credit. I'm just trying to promote, you guys got some variant covers out there. But then, finding Troy that way, and all of us have come together because of Oh Yeah Comics. So
Because of
And me and
comics.
Fife are going to be in it if 15
Eventually.
ever comes out.
actually, all of us, we haven't, we teased it.
It will. It'll come out. Yeah.
Right.
We teased it in our very first episode of this very show, talking about some things that we weren't ready to talk about, but things that are just waiting to be printed, and all of us have contributions that are basically just waiting on the assembly line. And but yeah, it's kind of cool that Oh Yeah Comics brought us together, and here we are, just four strangers for our group that became instant friends. And
That's kind of cool.
And
Here
now
we
you're
are on
trapped
our
in
last-
here too.
and we're here on our last show ever with Franco.
Ever.
In the meantime, I happened to see that I'm kind of curious what Star Wars character that Rodgers whipped up while we were talking here.
The
What
very
else?
best one. The
It's Luke
best
Skywalker.
thing drawn on this entire show.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of Ahsoka yet, so is this character show up at the end of Ahsoka? Maybe. Who is this?
Yeah. It's a crossover from the Rebels show.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I haven't seen all of Ahsoka either. I saw the first 2 episodes, and then I canceled Disney Plus.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know Booster Gold was in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's little known fact, but
Very little.
yeah, super little.
It looks
Oh,
good though.
man.
I like it. I like that he's in a t-shirt.
I own this exact T-shirt, so it was really easy to draw.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I was like, they actually made a Booster Gold T-shirt.
When me and my older brother were little, so our uncle brought us in like into his room, and he had like this big stacks of comics, and he's like, all right, Vince, Troy, you guys take turns picking comics. And in those big stacks were like Booster Gold. I think like number 2 of the original series was in there. And there was Blue Beetle comics and Justice League International comics, and so there's a lot of Booster and Beetle in there. And he and I read them, and he identified with Beetle because he's wicked smart, and I identified with Booster because I'm a dumb. But to this day, whenever I see Booster and Beetle, I see my big brother in me. So I think I have a bit of an affinity for them for that reason.
Awesome.
Pulling something up
That's
here
cool.
real quick. So we have. Oh no, where is it? Where's my cover? One sec. I don't have a cover. There it is. All right. So we have the cover for Happy Astronaut #1,
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
where it says
That's coming out, or did it come out yet?
it came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
gotta
then-
pick up a copy.
And
It
issue 2
is-
will be out on the stands by the time this episode is released. So
Yeah.
When's it
And
come out?
The reason that I got it, you'll see it says first issue excitement on Booster Gold #1. So I
Cool.
had to put it on my #1 as well.
Very nice.
Yeah, issue 2 comes out on October 25th.
What's
So
that?
what's the canon like the DC Comics canon status with Booster Gold? If he went through and he like fixed all of the DC continuity problems, is he part of DC? Like the current DC continuity?
I don't know, because I'm not current with DC. Because the last I knew, I got out when they did like the big reboot, the new
Uh-huh.
52, I think. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Because he had his own title, or he was like in the
was so good.
JLI, I think.
Right.
But originally because I got into comics bigger when the weekly series 52 was out. And that's
Right.
where I fell in love with Booster Gold, because he was basically like, he had advertisements all over his suit, and he was just like money hungry, and he used his time travel and his buddy Skeets with his encyclopedia knowledge of the history. So he was
kind of the
going,
worst person in the comic.
yeah, and he was awesome.
You just fell in love with him.
Yeah, I was like, this dude's the best. And then so his story arc was really cool. And then after 52, he teamed up with Rip Hunter and was just like going through time. And like there were crossovers with Jonah Hex, all this cool stuff that he did. And he was like the greatest hero that the world will never know about, because he was just fixing problems. So it's kind of like the worst curse that he could have, because he wanted to be famous.
Right. Yeah.
But then they did the big relaunch, and I have no clue. I don't even know if he's still a thing in DC Comics, because DC Comics seems to be like, Batman, you know. Put out another
Dan
Batman
Jurgens
book.
and Ryan Sook.
Yeah,
Is that-
no, Blue and Gold.
Yeah, they just did that Blue and Gold by I mean, probably 2 years ago now.
Yeah,
I
think
ordered that the other day. Rogers and I were talking about it. I ordered it. I've not read it yet.
It's good.
I have it. I haven't read it yet either.
It's really good. It's super good. But like I don't know what it matters. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what DC is doing, because they got into this thing where it's just like, let's relaunch. Okay, never mind, that didn't work. Let's go back to the old numbers. And then they're like, okay, now let's make everybody dead because that worked for Marvel. And
Well, it's got to be outside of their continuity because it's got Ted Kord in it. So
well, I remember
that's
that they had the I think it was before the New 52 and Boosters series. Like he traveled back in time to before Ted was killed, and
Mhm.
like hung out with them and had like heartfelt moments. And then they traveled back and got the original Blue Beetle, and then they
Mhm.
traveled and then they got Jaime, and they had like the Meet the Beatles. They had a mock cover that looked like the Beatles record cover, but it had all the Blue Beetles on it.
that's funny, like Abbey Road or something.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was fun. And then it wasn't fun anymore.
It was fun, and then see, it's funny. I didn't know about Ted Kord dying until that Brave and the Bold cartoon where they introduced Jaime on there, and they told the story of Ted kind of giving his life. And I was just like,
What?
my big brother's dead. What?
That was such a good issue.
Yeah.
I've never read it. I'm sure it's great though.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, that time in DC Comics, like the build up to Infinite Crisis 52,
Mhm.
So awesome.
that was like for me prime DC
Mhm.
recently.
Yeah.
I mean, Green Lantern Rebirth was going on, and that built
Flash, the
Sinestro
fastest
War
man
and all that
alive.
stuff.
Oh,
And
Flash, the
some
fastest
little
man
book
alive
called
is
Tiny
so good.
Titans was somewhere in there too.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit later than some of those series, right? 2008.
It was just we started in 2007 with Tiny
Okay.
Titans.
I
yeah.
did not pick it up when it originally came out because I was at that age where I
This
couldn't
is a kid's
accept
book.
things that what's that?
This is a kid's book. I'm not reading this.
Yeah. And then Johnny Sunchips came along and started a little podcast with you guys, and I had to start getting it, and my wife helped me get all the back issues, and
It's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
that's
that's
how I
when
got into.
me and Fife, we delivered pizzas at the same pizza place, and we would like leave on delivery, and in our car we'd be listening to the Oh Yeah podcast, and then we'd get back to the restaurant and we'd be like, oh man, it was so funny when they did this.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
does Johnny really hate you guys?
Johnny hates everything. That's the thing. That's the secret about Johnny. The Hulk is always angry. That's Johnny. Johnny's always angry. That's the
Johnny is
secret.
always. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
He's always angry.
I I had a chance to meet him at C2E2 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm intimidated to meet anybody really. Like the guy at Subway, I'm probably intimidated by him, but Johnny, I just got out of his way and didn't say a word to him. I regret it, but that's my story for now. I'll
No,
meet him.
you should. You should, yeah. All right, now I have a question for you guys.
Uh-oh.
What color lightsaber are we going to need for a Madman Jedi here?
Well,
I think Anthony would be the expert.
Yep, I agree.
I
I
think
defer to Anthony.
would a yellow look pretty good because
Ooh,
he's
yeah.
had a lot of red, white, and yellows kind of in his.
See, I knew I was going to the right guy. Look
Yeah,
at that.
so
His original outfit was yellow, right? Yellow and red.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
that
yellow
was
and red.
Daredevil.
in his exclamation bolt, it's called. But yeah, so I think yellow would be the appropriate choice.
That's good because if you change your mind at this point, it's too late because I already
I
went
say
with
yellow, I meant black.
Damn it.
You
Uh,
rocking the alcohol markers?
This is awesome.
I'll be right back, guys. The
Bye, Troy.
kids
See-
are
Okay,
fighting.
Okay,
Be right
Scoot.
back.
Why does he hate us? Scoot hates us.
No, man. No, Troy's already better. He
Oh, it's
showed
Troy.
up.
That's right.
Do what now? I'll figure it out. I'll be back.
We'll
Yeah,
explain it while he's gone.
I think I've really gotten on the good side of Johnny. Like every time I've been around him, there's a couple times that maybe my jokes don't translate in comment section for oh yeah, but that goes for a lot of people. But every time I've been in person with him and he's remembered me each time and he's given me some random shout outs. He was talking with who the heck was he talking about? But he had just like randomly like had mentioned is like, oh yeah, Anthony's a great artist. And it's just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so yeah, I'm trying to ride that good wave at the moment and try not to get on the bad side. So
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's weird that people know what I sound like because of the podcast.
Yeah.
I get stopped even in New York. I had a bunch of people come and say they listen to the podcast, and it never gets something I'm never gonna get used to because it's just weird. It's they're like, oh, and the guy he came up to me in New York and he said, I don't read any of your books. I'm not a fan. But I listen to you guys on the Oh Yeah podcast, and that's what I'm a fan of the podcast and of you guys. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But it's weird. It's weird because random people will stop me and talk about that.
Like
So-
us.
Yeah, like you nerds.
I've been looking for a good segue, and I'm going to take this one where maybe that guy wasn't a fan of your work, but we are things like Tiny Titans. We're talking about Oh Yeah Comics.
Oh man.
All the people that are unfamiliar with your work here. We got some Itty Bitty Hellboy.
Wow.
We got,
Got
a
all of them there.
most recent Svengoolie Lost in Time. That was an awesome
Oh yeah.
collaboration there. You've
That was
got
fun to work on. Yeah.
got the Ghost, the Owl,
Oh, oh.
got Archimaniacs. We've talked a lot about Faye and the Moon.
Look at that. He's got the whole collection.
We've got Deadman Tells the Spooky Sales.
So you're
Whoa.
I was gonna say you're the guy that bought those.
Got some Superman Family Adventures.
Yeah, that's on here too. What I was going to say about
Yeah.
Deadman is that I have so many signatures because I would track down as many of the artists as possible, so it's almost complete. We've got a little book called Spot On Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Look at that.
Scoot.
Got Superman of Smallville. And Patrick the Wolf Boy. So for any of those people watching the show that maybe are fans of us and fans of Happy Astronaut, Kid Slapshot, that they didn't know much about Franco and his work and his collaborations with art, as well as many other creators. That's just kind of a sampling. Did you have a website you would like to direct people?
Yeah, Blind Wolf Studios, BLINDWOLF Studios.com. That's where you can find all things Franco, or just Google me, Franco DC Comics, and you'll come up with some linkages.
And then that text will be up here on the show. And then you also have the Blind Wolf Studios .bigcartel.com for some original artwork. At the time of this recording, there's a couple newer pieces that are up there.
Yeah, I just put them up.
Yes, yes. And so yeah, those are just some hot spots to go check out his work and the online shop and all that stuff. And it's a good time. Just want to get those plugs in there. We don't necessarily have to wind down, but looking at the time here and kind of reading the room and seeing what's happening, I at least wanted to get those plugged before anyone had to drop out. So,
Oh, thanks, man.
cool.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I take
I'm
it you
still
didn't
drawing.
post any
Can I make a-
Silver Surfer.
Can I make a plug, Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Rodgers and I have an Archie Comics cover. It's an exclusive that you can only get at Fayetteville Comic Con, the Dragon's Lair Comics, or from Rodgers or not.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Super fancy. It's on glossy paper. It's full color. It's what are other nice things to say about it? It's got Archie comics in it.
Yes.
It's
got the Trick or Treat characters or Trick or Treat.
Yep,
First
Trick and
appearance.
Treat. I think it's the only cover to ever prominently feature them. I'm gonna just make that up. I don't know that that's true, but we're gonna say that ours is the only one to prominently feature them. Almost every cover has them like little itty bitty at the top, like a tagline, but they're the focal point of our cover. So if you like Trick and Treat, excuse me, reach out to Rodgers or me because we're the only ones that like it also.
And
Everybody
and
else sucks.
to clarify, Troy drew it. I colored it.
It took two to make it, sir.
Correct.
Team
I
effort.
don't want people to think that it was me.
Rodgers and Dongarra, we got this.
Raj Guerra.
Rodgers.
Kind of how it took myself and Franco to come up with the lightsaber for both of our projects. So yeah, the teamwork is really important around here. So
Yeah, see, yeah.
otherwise they'd just be just blank lightsabers that wouldn't turn on.
Yeah. Come on, man. It's a true story.
When I drew mine, as soon as I drew it, I realized that I was like the lightsaber could not be on because it was too close to the edge of the page. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna redo that.
That's okay.
It's been
That's
off in the movies too, so it's accurate.
I don't like
It's
that.
off sometimes.
I don't like that.
He's got his Kirby hand. Yoda's got a Kirby hand going.
I like it.
And to talk about Franco a little bit more, do you have any other conventions lined up for the rest of 2023 that you want to plug at all, or a place where they can be found?
Nope.
Nope. New York Comic Con is kind of like the
New
end.
York Comic. Yeah, I'm doing one small show in Long Island called Hurricane in November, but it's just like a 1-day show. But I'm not going anywhere anymore. I think putting in my retirement papers in January, February of last year, and coming up to the summer, I'm like, oh, something like snapped in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be out of a job. I'm not going to be working anymore. So I think I overcompensated and added all these shows, and I traveled everywhere over the summer. So I'm kind of looking forward to not going anywhere for a while.
Hunker down for the winter.
Yeah.
Cool.
Doing stuff.
Are there projects coming up that you're allowed to mention, or?
So far, just the Titans one.
Mhm.
Art and I working on another project as well, and I got a couple projects coming up, creator-owned projects. Going to be gearing up for a Kickstarter for one of my projects, and I have a comic book that should be announced soon that is just going to be available at the stores and through me and at conventions and stuff like that. But
By stores, do you mean the? Oh yeah,
the comic stores? Yeah, sorry. When I say store, I always meant my own. Yeah.
Like Kmart, J.C. Penney's, Sears.
Yeah, they will not be carrying
Oh no. Oh,
any
okay.
of these.
Want to make sure,
No.
I was getting on, kbtoystore.com and nothing was coming up. So
Yeah, no, sorry.
fair enough.
Are those still around?
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna
I
go
thought
and
they-
say no.
I was gonna say I don't think so.
I don't think they are.
I haven't seen. They had the giraffe, right?
That was Toys R Us.
Yeah, that was Toys R Us.
They're back.
They're making a comeback, right?
Yeah, they're in Macy's department stores. They have like little sections.
They're
for
like
Toys
comic
R Us.
characters because they don't die now either. Corporations are like comic book characters; they come back.
That's everything comes back to comics. How about that?
Star Wars.
I like how I managed to take the subject away from Star Wars onto Justice League for a pretty good chunk of time. I'm fairly proud of that.
Well done.
Well, I mean, I needed Rodgers. We didn't discuss this ahead of time with you guys, but Rodgers and I were planning it.
It was in the works the whole time.
Yeah. It was actually his thought because he's a big Star Wars guy. He was being nice to me by throwing some Booster Gold in there. It's like,
Yeah.
otherwise, Troy just will sit there and grin the whole time, and that's creepy. So we can't have that.
Awesome, man.
Cool, guys.
Cool,
That's
cool.
awesome.
Looks good.
All right. I'm feeling the vibe here. I think we're gonna wind it down. I don't know if there's any final questions that anybody had here, as we have a pretty awesome mega sized show, a lot to talk about. So if you guys had any other final thoughts,
Go ahead, Rogers.
Oh, I was just gonna say I have questions, but I'm gonna wait until like you're not recording anymore to ask them.
Ooh,
Yeah.
after dark questions, I love it.
And maybe I'll do the same. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it'll be a repeat, but we'll see.
Right.
But yeah, it was awesome for you to reach out to us at the beginning of the year when we dropped the trailer and showing your excitement to
Yeah,
to
man.
on this very show.
Well,
There's-
thanks for having me on and having me be. I feel honored being your first guest on the show
And last.
and last. That's right, because it's the last episode ever.
yeah, it was a
I
great
feel
Goodbye forever.
I
Hey,
feel
we'll
doubly honored.
we'll reboot after. So, but yeah, it
Cool.
was awesome to have you on and hang out and draw and talk some Star Wars. And once again, those links that you talked about for Blind Wolf Studios will be available in post. People will be able to see that, to reach out to you, check out some online shops, visit All Yeah Comics around the country, check out some original work and upcoming conventions for 2024, and of course all of the projects that are in the works, to follow your feeds and wait to see what's on deck for the
Cool.
years to come. So
Thank
what
you.
we like to do here to finalize the show is kind of point out that because we are cartoonists by night, meaning that we all have day jobs. We found out through this podcast that you've retired from the day job, but to keep with the theme, we kind of noticed that the sun's starting to come up. So I guess it's time to return to our day jobs. See you later.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me.
Yeah, got it. Can't get the thing closed.